Want to start a podcast, or are you already a podcast host? What would you say if I told you that you can get paid up to $31 per guest you interview, and I can help you book those guests? If you want to start making more money with your podcast right now and interview great guests who your listeners will love, it's not too good to be true. It's Podmatch. If you use my Podmatch link in the show notes right now, Podmatch will pay you up to $31 per interview. Yes, up to $31 per interview. I did not stutter. If you want to make more money from your podcast while expanding your reach and getting more listeners, simply click our Podmatch link in the show notes right now to check out this really cool opportunity. Welcome back to the Podgasm Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Fleming. Your listeners are on a battlefield, and they're trying to accomplish a mission. And when you understand how a battlefield works, you'll understand how to make your podcast work by helping your listeners win. You'll understand how to talk in a way that they think, so that when they hear your podcast, they read about it, they hear it, they will connect with it on a deep level. In the last episode, we talked about how to become your listeners' trusted ally that they turn to for advice to help them overcome or get something they want. In this episode, I'm going to teach you how to give your listeners an easy mission plan. This is a simple process you can use to give your listeners the great information they want in a way they can easily consume and understand and apply it, so they'll want to keep coming back to your podcast over and over again. This makes your podcast, your content, super easy to follow. And most podcasters I don't see doing this. And it's causing confusion for their listeners, even if they don't know it, and nobody's getting the outcomes they want. And by the way, if you don't have it already, go grab the free Speak Your Listeners Language PDF. It's a simple 3-page PDF that's going to show you 7 super simple keys to easily crafting a powerful brand message for your podcast that will make your podcast more appealing to more of the right people, so your show will grow. So if you want more people to notice your podcast more often and subscribe to it, go grab this right now. It's free. Just click the link in the show notes that says Speak Your Listeners Language right now. So lots of podcasters say a lot of good information, but people listening often don't know what to do with all of it. So they feel inspired sometimes, but then sometimes they leave feeling a little bit lost. And this can be frustrating because people will show up and listen to your podcast once or twice, but then leave and never listen to your podcast again, no matter how good you think it is, because you aren't doing what I'm about to teach you. Like, if this is easy, people just don't generally know to do it. Podcasters generally just don't know to do it because they're not, in a lot of cases, professional communicators. But I'm going to teach you one of the key ways here, a super easy way to make sure your listeners follow along and understand and benefit from each of your podcast episodes. And let me ask you this really quick, fellow podcaster. Are you looking for an easy way to record your podcast episodes in world-class high quality, edit them in a flash, and make them live without all the technical headaches and confusion? If so, then you're in luck. Riverside FM is the premier podcast recording software that allows you to produce the same high-quality podcasts as other world-famous podcasters your listeners are already enjoying. Look, level up your podcast right now, even if you're brand new, you're not a techie, maybe you don't have a lot of time, so you can attract more listeners to your podcast consistently. This thing has AI software built into it that can cut clips from your podcast and do in 5 seconds what it would take you 5 hours to do, so you can share those to social media and get more exposure and grow your following. So look, simply click the Riverside FM link in the show notes to grow your podcast to the next level, starting right now. No matter what your podcast is about, give people a short, simple mission plan. What is that? What do I mean by that? It's simply 3 easy steps they can or need to take in order to apply what you taught them or you're talking or discussing with them, so they can get a desired outcome of some sort and avoid a consequence that maybe they don't want. So no matter what your podcast is about, have a 3-step framework / mindset baked into it that is simple and easy to understand and apply. Abide by this 3-step sort of mindset when you're talking about the bulk lessons of that section of your podcast episode. It's only when people take some sort of action that they produce outcomes. And when you get people results and outcomes, they tend to come back and they want to listen to you more and get involved. So here's an example. I've been using 2 examples, my military speaking when I was marketing to the military, as well as this podcast in these first 8 episodes to give you examples of how this works and applies to you. So here's the first example concerning me speaking to the military. I could say, so with the military, just if you didn't listen to the previous episodes, I was talking about how I, in the past, have taught military couples how to have better marriages after coming home from war. So I can give them a bunch of good information, but I need to tell them a few things they can do. Here are like 3 steps to take. So this is how easy it is. Don't overthink this. Step 1, go on a date 1 evening a week. See, that's step 1. I'm telling them what to do. Step 2, turn off your phones while on the date. And step 3, talk about a part of your marriage you want to make better. So you see how easy that was? It's like, wow, how can we actually do better in our marriage? Well, there's a lot of ways. There's like 533 ways. And there likely are. But here's 3 ways to get you started. 1, go on a date 1 evening a week. 2, turn off your phones while on the date. And 3, while on the date, talk about a part of your marriage you want to make better. See how easy that is to follow? It's not like these 10 or 15 steps to make your marriage better. It's 3. It's easy. So example number 2, this podcast. I'm talking to podcasters, helping them grow their podcast by clarifying their podcast marketing messages. So if you want more subscribers and listeners to your podcast, 1, identify specifically who your podcast is for. 2, clarify your podcast marketing message. And 3, produce consistent episodes and cross-promote with other podcasters in your niche. Those are 3 big steps that people can easily take in order to get a result if you're in that group. Which, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably are, because this podcast is for podcasters trying to grow their show, and we show you how to do that by clarifying your podcast marketing and branding message so people understand what you're about, they know you're for them, and how you can help them. So as you structure your episodes, ask yourself, think about this, how can you bake in a 3-part structure into the core of your main content for each episode so people can more easily follow what you say and, more importantly, do it so they can get an outcome? If you want your podcast to get noticed and attract more subscribers and loyal followers, give them an easy 3-step mission structure, a plan that can easily be followed and applied in each of your episodes. If this is helpful for you, feel free to share this with another podcaster if you think it'll help them. Just click that share button really quick. It takes about 3 seconds, and that will allow me to help them in the same way I'm trying to help you. Do you struggle to write compelling and effective brand messaging that gets your podcast noticed? Do you want more people to listen to your podcast, but you struggle to talk about it in a way that grabs their attention and keeps it? If your podcast marketing messaging is not up to par, you are losing listeners. But maybe you don't know anything about copywriting and writing marketing messaging and such. Fortunately for you, I've been doing it for over 17 years. Do you want me to write your podcast marketing messaging for you in a clear, powerful, and compelling way that grabs your ideal listeners' attention and makes them want to listen to your podcast over and over again? Each month, I take on a small, limited number of clients and rewrite their podcast marketing messaging for them. Yes, I do all the hard work for you, and you just get to enjoy the benefits of it without any of the headaches when I'm done. If you want me to craft clear, distinct, and compelling marketing messaging that grows your podcast for you so you can attract more listeners consistently, send me an email right now at podgasmshow@gmail.com. There's a link in the show notes. And put the word consult in the subject line to check my availability.